Under the moon. Under the moon. The sun is a huge burning ball of fire. On the planet Earth, we cannot live without heat and light from the sun. Around our planet, there is the ozone layer, which protects us from the sun's fire. But what happens if the ozone layer breaks up? Today, there are already small holes in it, and some people say they will get bigger and bigger, until one day there will be nothing between us and the sun's fire. It happened in 2222. So the people of Earth made the AOL, the artificial ozone layer. Another 1,000 years of life for the beautiful planet Earth. Trees grew again, rain fell, there was water in the rivers. But now it is 2522 and the AOL is already breaking up. The new forests are beginning to burn, the rivers are running dry. Kia and Rilla from their spaceship see the danger, but what can they do? Their friends in the colony under the moon are a long way away, and Gog, the Earth commander, will not listen to them. Always remember today. A wonderful day for the planet Earth. The artificial ozone layer, AOL, is finished. Today, the last ship arrived from space at 1500 hours. In Kisangani, 50,000 people waited for ship OL-20, the last of the AOL ships. Ship OM-1 is staying in space with its satellite. They're watching the AOL day and night. Now Earth can begin to live again. Under the AOL, the sun cannot burn us. Trees and people can now have water again and stay alive. The AOL is good for 1,000 years. Chapter 1. The AOL in 2522. 500 kilometers over Europe, ship OM-45 moved north. In a room at the back of the ship, Kia watched the numbers on the computer in front of him. "Time for dinner," Rilla said. The numbers changed quickly and Kia's eyes didn't move. Rilla went across the room to his table. She began to watch the numbers too. "What's wrong with the satellite?" she asked. She was a beautiful girl, about 20 years old, with long black hair and big eyes. "Nothing's wrong with the satellite," Kia answered quietly. "It's the AOL." He began to write the numbers in the book on his table. Suddenly, the numbers stopped changing. Kia looked at Rilla. "Over Europe," he said, "it's happening. The AOL is breaking up. There are big holes in the AOL and they're getting bigger." "You're right. Shall we see Captain Saru now, before dinner?" Kia stood up. He was nearly 2 meters tall, with dark eyes and hair. "Yes, come on," he said. Quickly they went to Captain Saru's room. They waited at the door. "Come in," Captain Saru called. She was a little woman with a fat face. "Come in. Would you like a drink?" "No, thank you," Kia answered. "I'd like you to look at these numbers." Kia gave Captain Saru his book. Captain Saru looked at the numbers. Suddenly her face changed. "No, no," she said. "I don't want to talk. It's late and I'm tired. Sit down and have a drink." Kia and Rilla sat down. There was a big window in Captain Saru's room. Kia looked out of the window at the dark sky. He saw the moon. It was cold and white in the dark sky. "Captain Saru," he began, "it's important. Look at those numbers carefully. The AOL is beginning to—" "Stop!" Captain Saru stood up and put her hands in her pockets. She went to the window and looked at the sky. 300 years ago, Earth nearly died," Rilla said. "Earth stopped dying because of the AOL, but now, over Europe, the AOL is breaking up. We would like you to talk to Earth Commander." Captain Saru did not move. "Do you remember a die?" she asked. She didn't wait for an answer. "I was on his ship 2 years ago. One evening, the satellite gave us interesting numbers about the AOL. We went back to Earth and saw Earth Commander." Captain Saru stopped speaking. Rilla looked at Kia. "And then?" she asked Captain Saru. "Gog was angry, very angry," Captain Saru said. "In the end, he sent a die to the moon. A die's there now, commander of the moon colony, under the moon." Kia waited for a second or two. "I know about a die, but we need to talk to Earth Commander again. These numbers are worse." Captain Saru's face went red. "You don't understand. I'm not going to talk to Gog. Last time, he sent me to a weather ship in the Antarctic. This is my first ship in 2 years." And Captain Saru began drinking. Kia stood up. "Thank you, Captain Saru." Captain Saru said nothing. Kia and Rilla left the room and walked slowly downstairs. The ship was dark and quiet. It was 8 o'clock and everybody was at dinner. What are we going to do next? Rilla asked. I need to talk to Adai, Kia said. Okay, talk to Adai, but he's far away on the moon colony, Rilla said. Let's visit Commander Sadak. Sadak, Commander of Australia? He's famous. Yes, he's my father's friend. He worked with my father in Brazil 10 years ago. Perhaps he can help us. Kia smiled. Good. We return to Earth next week. I can phone Adai from Kisangani and then we can go to Australia. But now I'm hungry. Let's get some dinner. Chapter 2. Visit to Australia. On Friday, after 3 weeks in space, Kia and Rilla finished work and left ship OM-45 on a space plane to Kisangani. Kia phoned Adai and Rilla phoned Commander Sadak in Australia. The next morning they took an airplane to Sydney. A taxi took them from the airport to Commander Sadak's office, some kilometers north of Sydney. Wait for us here, Kia said to the taxi driver. Kia and Rilla walked to the gate. About 10 guards stood in front of the gate. Across the road, a train waited. Rilla, OM-45, Rilla said, to see Commander Sadak at 4:30. Let me call the commander's office, the guard said. Kia and Rilla waited. It was hot, and Kia began to feel thirsty. The guard came back. I'm sorry, he said. The commander can't see you. But I talked to the commander yesterday, Rilla said. He wanted to see us at 4:30. The commander is leaving on the train in 3 minutes, the guard said. Can we wait and see him here? Kia asked. No, the guard shouted. Get out of here. Kia and Rilla walked back to the taxi. Where's the driver? Kia asked. Look, he's sitting by that wall, Rilla said. Just then, Commander Sadak came out of the gate. He was a very tall, big man with blue eyes and a lot of white hair. 2 guards marched in front of him and 2 guards marched behind him. They all carried guns. There he is, Rilla cried. Commander, and she began to run along the road to him. Commander Sadak did not stop. A guard opened the door of the train and the commander got in. Slowly the train began to move. Kia ran to the taxi and jumped in. Then he drove the taxi fast down the road. The taxi driver saw him and ran after him. The train began to move faster. Suddenly, Kia drove the taxi off the road. He drove in front of the train and stopped. The train came nearer, and then the train stopped. Very near the taxi, and some guards jumped off. Kia opened the door and got out of the taxi. Pull up your hands, the guards shouted. 2 of the guards began to hit Kia. Stop that, someone shouted. Bring him over here. It was Commander Sadak. Kia stood in front of the commander. Just then, Rilla arrived. Oh, it's you, Commander Sadak said. He did not smile. Rilla, your father's going to be angry. We want to talk to you, Commander, Rilla said. It's very important. Very well, I'm listening. Kia began to talk. 2 years ago, Adai told you about the holes in the AOL. Now they're worse. The AOL is breaking up over Europe. Please look at these numbers and this satellite picture. He gave his book to Commander Sadak and the commander looked at the numbers. It's important, Commander, Kia said. In 10 years, Earth is going to die. You stopped my train because of this? Commander Sadak asked. 2 years ago, Adai talked to me about the AOL. Then he talked to Earth Commander. And what happened? Where is Adai now? Is the moon colony helping the AOL? We know about Adai, Commander, Rilla said, but someone needs to talk to the Earth Commander again. I'm going to talk to Gog about rain, I can tell you that. Earth needs rain. There was no rain last winter. Half of Australia has no water and my trees here are dying. Without rain, many people are going to die. Is Gog going to understand that? I don't know. Commander Sadak began to walk back to his train. Move that taxi, he called to his guards. Some guards moved the taxi back to the road and then they jumped onto the train again. The train began to move. Okay, the taxi driver shouted. What are you going to do next? Drive my taxi into the river? Kia smiled. He took some money from his pocket and gave it to the taxi driver. The taxi driver looked at the money. Okay, he said. Where now? Back to the airport? Kia took Rilla's hand. Yes, he said. Let's get back to Kisangani. We can phone Adai again tomorrow. Moon Commander needs more money. River now finished. Commander Adai from his space colony under the moon tells Earth, we finished making the river last month and it's beautiful. but we need more money. Commander Adai and his people are working on the buildings now, and the buildings are nearly finished. But the roads are not ready. We would like many people to live here soon, the commander told us on the phone, but we need a lot of money. Chapter 3. Earth Commander. The next day in Kisangani, Kia and Rilla waited quietly in an office in Gog's house. Suddenly, Commander Sadak came into the office and gave some letters to the man behind the table. He saw the two young people and stopped in front of them. "You again," he said. "What are you doing here?" Kia stood up. "Good morning, Commander. We're here because we want to see Earth Commander." "I saw Earth Commander some minutes ago and talked to him about rain," Sadak said quietly, but he didn't listen. "Your captain, Saru, he was here earlier this morning and began to tell him about the holes in the AOL, but Gog doesn't want to hear about our planet. He's always talking about Mars. In the end, he's going to destroy Earth." "Please help us," Rilla cried. "Come and see Gog with us." "No," Sadak looked at Kia and then at Rilla with his blue eyes. "I'm not talking to Gog again. And you, Gog isn't going to listen to you. Be careful, and good luck." Commander Sadak opened the door and left the office. Rilla looked at Kia. "Earth Commander is a difficult man. I don't understand him." "Everyone is afraid of him," Kia said, "and Commander Sadak isn't going to help us." Kia and Rilla waited. They waited and waited. At nearly 12 o'clock, a guard came into the office. "Come," he said. Kia and Rilla went with the guard. The house was big and old, with big windows and many doors. The guard went downstairs and opened one of the doors. There was nobody in the room. "Wait here," the guard said, and left. Kia and Rilla sat down on the expensive green and black chairs and looked at the expensive flowers on the tables. There were no windows in this room. Suddenly, the door opened and a tall, fat woman came in. Her name was Belle, and she was Gog's wife. She had a lot of long red hair and she wore an expensive blue dress. Belle liked expensive things. She carried a cat. The cat was black and white. Half its face was black and half was white. Half its body was black and half was white. "Why are you here? Why do you want to see Earth Commander?" she asked. Rilla stood up. "How do you do?" she said. "We want to talk to Earth Commander about the AOL. We have new numbers from the satellite." Belle's face was red. "The AOL? Earth Commander knows about the AOL, and he is the best man." "Excuse me," Kia said quietly. "We want to help Earth Commander." Belle began to laugh. "Help? You?" The cat jumped down and walked across the room. "How can you help? Why can't you understand? Listen, Earth Commander is working on the spaceship for Mars. It's difficult and expensive work." The cat jumped onto Rilla's chair and looked at her with its yellow eyes. 2 years ago, Adai wanted more money for the AOL, and Earth Commander sent him to the colony under the moon. Now you're talking about the AOL. Do you want to go to the moon too? The door opened again and a different guard came in. "Excuse me, Earth Commander is ready now." Belle stood up. "You can see Earth Commander now," she said coldly, "but you're going to be sorry." The guard opened a different door, and Belle and the cat went into a beautiful room with expensive, very old tables and chairs. Rilla and Kia went in behind them. There were no windows in the room, but a lot of pictures. There was Gog, the richest man on Earth, and the worst man on Earth. He was tall and fat, and without much hair. He sat behind a big table with a television, 3 computers, and 5 telephones. He watched the television and didn't look at Kia or Rilla. 2 guards with guns stood behind him, and 2 more guards stood near the door. "Here they are," Belle said. "They aren't friends. Oh no, they want to talk about the AOL, of course. No one understands about Mars." That's all right," Gog said quickly, and then he looked up, first at Rilla and then at Kia. His eyes were cold and green. "I know about you two," he said. "Your captain told me about you. You're famous. 2 children. You want to help planet Earth, is that right?" He waited. The cat jumped onto his table and sat down in front of the television. "Yes, Commander," Kia began. "The AOL is breaking up." "When? Tonight? Tomorrow?" Gog said angrily. "I heard this old story 2 years ago from Adai. Everyone comes here and wants money. Money for the AOL, money for rain, money for the moon colony. But I am Earth Commander, and you are nobody. I know about the AOL, and the AOL is good for 100 years. But the satellite, Kia began again. Be quiet, God cried. I am Earth Commander. I'm not going to give money for the AOL, or for rain, or for the moon. God looked at the guards near the door. Take them away. I don't want to hear them. The guards moved behind Kia and Rilla, and Belle began to laugh. Goodbye, she said. You're not going to the moon. You're going to prison. You can talk about the holes in the AOL there. No rain. Forests are dying. The new forests in Europe, Asia, and Africa are dying because there is no rain. The commanders of Europe, Asia, America, Africa, and Australia finished making the new forests 10 years ago. The forests were very expensive. Commander Sadak of Australia was in Kisangani today. He talked to Earth Commander about rain. My trees are dying, he told us. The forests are important to all of us. Without water, nothing can live. Many hundreds of years ago, the old forest died. Now it is happening again. After the forests die, then people are going to die too.